Okie dokie, okie dokie, okie dokie, okie dokie. Let's push the button and start the show. Woo! Hi, everybody. Hi. This is Soul. This is the third episode of Warcraft Daily. It's good to have you, and it's good to see all your smiling faces. Let me actually pull up chat so I can actually see people saying hi and what have you. So we have just a few news items today. There are actually things to talk about, and I guess the main topic that I want to that I want to cover is the letter from Anduin to Sylvanas that was posted just yesterday from Blizzard. I put out a video just a little bit earlier in the day yesterday where I just read the letter, and I thought it was pretty fun. It was just a cool little reading, a short little sample or other for people to enjoy or to talk smack about. And sure enough, there are people talking smack about it, and I'm going to be going over a little bit of that in tomorrow's weekly roundup, where I just kind of go over all of the different responses and comments in parts of you, the viewers, and as well as like forums and other such things. So let's get right to some news stuff. It's not too much, like I said. Raid boss testing is going to start shortly. I believe it's going to be tomorrow. Let me double check the date on that. So there's going to be some raid testing. So there's going to be some streams out there for folks to watch. So yes, it's going to be tomorrow. There's going to be several bosses on. Let's see. One is going to be Mythic Mithrax, for those of you who are even paying attention, and the other one. And they're also going to test out a section of the raid in Raid Finder difficulty. Whoop-de-doo. My hopes are that I'm a little bit curious about how Raid Finder is going to go this time around. I'm hoping that some of the feedback that Blizzard has gotten during the Legion expansion includes, hey, you know what? Maybe we should have the actual mechanics in some of these encounters. It was a real bummer thinking about Tomb of Sargeras, where there are certain fights where they were just like totally broken. There was like nothing to do, such as Avatar of Sargeras. There was, I recall that the maiden wasn't even out there. You just kind of DPS the boss, and like that was about it. And then you drop down, and ta-da! That was like the whole fight. It was remarkably boring. Good morning to you, Michael. Hello, Supreme Horde Commander. You, Hellblade Red Man. It was a fun read, Michael. But I'm going to put on my little Horde hat, and I'm going to be talking smack about that letter in a little bit. I'm going to do kind of a breakdown of some of the lines and some of the things that I'm going to let bother me about that letter. But I'm going to get to that in just a few moments. We still don't have any build right now. As you can see, I'm still online on the beta, unfortunately, which means that tomorrow's weekly, as much as I want it to be shorter, it's going to end up being filled up with a bunch of, hey, here's the new stuff that's come out of this build. Or hopefully, I'll just miss out on it, and then I'll save it for like another day. That's probably the hope. But unfortunately, there wasn't a build this week so far, mostly because of the Memorial Day holiday that went down for us Yanks over on Monday. Well, you know, he wished he led you too. To be honest, no. I find talking a little bit about Horde and Alliance politics and their leadership and such, at least as a story, at least from a story observing standpoint, the Horde is more exciting to read about. There are changes that happen. Things happen within the Horde. Not so much with the Alliance. It's so it tends to be so static and predictable that it's pretty boring. If I was a normal citizen, if I was a normal person living in either the Horde or Alliance territories, I probably would rather live in Alliance territories. The reason being is because I'm human. That's pretty much it. That is primarily the reason. Because it would depend on what race I am, wouldn't it? And without knowing any other real perspective aside from human, I think in that case I would rather have Anduin as my king. Because who else would be? I'm not part puppy. I'm not blue. I don't have hooves. I'm not that short. What are you trying to say? I'm not that short, and I'm not a dwarf. So, oh, and I don't like heat. So I definitely wouldn't want to live in Ironforge. So I'd rather live in Stormwind. So yeah, I guess you're right in that, but not for the reasons you think. That's a hell of a step. Mike's asking why do they fiddle with threats? I think it's mostly because, at least personally, I find tanking to be less exciting than it used to be. I think tanking has kind of gotten boring. And in the meantime, DPS and healer classes, they have been able to do more stuff. Stand out. It's gone well beyond stand. Get out of the fire. There's so much more that DPS and healers get to do that tanks just don't. And I would like to have a little bit more dynamics and like raid mechanics and more things to do. Unfortunately, though, without that being the case, I would like to worry about something else, and threat's one of them. And threat used to be a thing, and I guess it's taken Blizzard a while to get a real handle of how they want to, of what they want to do with it. They wanted us to forget about it for a little while. Now they don't, so we'll just see how that works. Simon, what's up? And good morning. And good morning to everyone else, including me, myself. Let's see. I just hope they continue to not have one faction be the bad guy. You know what? What's funny, Michael? My perspective is that no one's the bad guy yet. It's all it's been really is this side versus that side, and how intense one side is over the other. In the end, we're still killing each other. Murder is wrong. If we went with that context, then aren't we all bad? I don't think so. Real paladins equate to the light forest. Ooh, that's them's dangerous words. I don't know. Like, hey, if anything, real paladins are the Naru. They're the only paladins because they're like the source and all that. You could Simon says that you could theoretically make it similar to minorities in a xenophobic society. That it is kind of like that. And Mike says, we want your Forsaken. Give us all the story driven neat new races. All right. So the last little bit of news to mention real quick is that Blizzard has been asking for feedback from players. They first started with Mythic Plus. Soon, they say, TM, they're going to be asking about the PvP experience. So it looks like Blizzard is just kind of going down the list of stuff that they want critics to trash talk them about, and hopefully they'll get good feedback. It's a little odd asking for this feedback now as opposed to asking for it maybe like November or so when they first announced the Battle for Azeroth expansion, so that way Blizzard can take some more of this direct feedback and apply it to what's coming. It looks like any of the feedback that they get now isn't going to be applied until either later in Biffa or in the expansion after that, which kind of sucks. Let's see, blah blah blah. She says she's crazy. Monarch, what's up, dude? All right, so let me get to improving, because I did not rehearse this. I'm gonna talk shit about that letter. So let me pull up that letter. Letter. Not that. That's not the letter. I am pulling up that letter. Skaboosh. All right. So when I read this letter, I had a lot of fun doing it, to be frank. It was cool. It was fun. I had a good time doing it. But at the same time, there are certain things about the letter that bother me a little bit. So I'm going to kind of go up and down this. The glorious letter, he means. Bohemia, what's up? And what's up to you, Don? Hi to everybody. So let's get to this. Let's get to this letter. So he writes, I write to you with a proposition that has nothing to do with armies, territories, or goods, but it is one that I believe will still serve both the Horde and Alliance. I'll cut into the heart of the matter, which is kind of my first little jab. It's like, I'll cut directly to the heart of the matter. Our world is fucked. How about that? I find that's probably my biggest thing about this letter, is that it doesn't address the biggest problem going on Azeroth right now, which is in the shape of a big ass sword in the desert, in the sandy part of Azeroth. Ha ha. The idea that there isn't like a huge horde and alliance kind of expedition that's not that. I mean, one, they're fighting for the Azerite. I mean, that's one thing, but there doesn't seem to be enough that's just looking into, hey, what's actually going on here? Is this Azerite thing going to be? Is this going to be a problem? This giant sword? How do we get rid of it? There doesn't seem to be any sort of that kind of urgency. He says here that this missive is about families, and no, it's not. It's about the end of the goddamn world. What are families? There's a point where things like family, brotherhood, honor, righteousness, you kind of got to throw that. I think that there's a point you got to throw that out of the window when the thing that you're standing on, the planet that you're standing on, is at risk of absolute destruction. What do? There, at least as far as I know, there hasn't been any talk of one trying to help the sword, because maybe they don't quite get the sense of urgency yet. But once there is, and all it really takes is for Magni to kind of, teleport his way over to the different faction leaders and be like, hey, you know what? I know you guys love killing each other, but the planet's gonna die, so nothing matters. So save the goddamn planet, okay? That I guess that's more of a Blizzard problem with just the direction of the story that they kind of hamstrung themselves into going. Because yes, there's a big ass sword in the planet. Why are the Horde and Alliance not focusing on that? Because Blizzard's not writing that narrative. They're focused on, oh, this Azerite stuff popped up. If I hold on to it, it's like I get like a super high. And everything feels freaking amazing. Yeah, it is kind of all over the place, Simon. It's not. It's the letter reads as an exercise in hubris from a king, because he's pretty much insisting. He's asserting all sorts of things. We're not currently at war. This missive is about families. He chose the location. He chose what's going to happen. He's basically proposing peace, or he's proposing what is a peaceful exchange on his terms. Here's the location. Here's what's going to happen. Here's who's going to show up. Here's the intention here, and that's about it. It's a unique approach from Anduin. It's very idealistic, almost naively idealistic, as his character tends to be. Hey, let's bring these two peoples together and see what happens, without quite realizing that what might happen could be absolutely disastrous and violent, as is, spoiler alert, is what's probably going to happen. Actually, of course, this is a spoiler alert. I'm reading stuff from the book, so obviously things aren't going to work out based on the context of this letter here. Let's see what you folks have to say. Mike says that if this letter is any indication, they gave this game story lore to the right lady. I'm so looking forward for truer stories to come. Menard says, I think it's less that they're not noticing the sword and more they can't do anything about it. You don't pull out a knife when you get stabbed because it's stopping the blood from gushing out until you get to the hospital. Maybe not, but then you can at least go up to the top of the sword and start like shaving it down, right? Or something like that. At least as far as we know, the sword itself isn't, I mean, it does have that crazy glowing energy up top, but it hasn't quite been explained yet. And I think that would have helped tremendously for building the context of what's going on. It could have been just text lines that could have been set up as soon as the sword dropped, or some voice lines from Khadgar or from any of the factions leaders that say preliminary reports indicate that this is a sword that no one can get close to without turning into marshmallow goo or some shit like that. It could have been something like that could have helped to build on that narrative, to help justify the meaning of this letter, which kind of brushes off the end of the world, the possible end of the world, because they don't quite realize that yet, or at least that's how it seems to be. But yeah, that's my biggest thing, is that Anduin is setting everything up, setting all the terms, the approach, the intentions here. And there could have been much more practical approaches to fostering in the idea of peace. Hey, the letter could have been like, hey, Sylvanas, what's up? Anduin here. I'm not that great at this, but I'm going to give it a shot. So just hit me back if we're cool. So here's what I'm proposing. I think that you and I should do a prisoner exchange. Let's do something normal. Like you probably have prisoners. Hopefully you didn't experiment on them. But if you did, you know what? We'll overlook that. We'll heal them and all that stuff. We have some of your prisoners. We've been kind of using them as target dummies. We're sorry about that, but they're still alive. So let's do a prisoner exchange as an act of good faith. And on top of that, let's talk about this Azeroth shit, because we don't know what this is. We know that you're looking into it, but our concern is we want to make sure that the world is safe. And then after that, we can start killing each other. But first, let's make sure that the battlefield that we're standing on is still going to be here in a couple of years. Is that cool? And if it is, sweet. And if not, nice knowing you. Let's do this Warcraft thing. I think a more practical approach would have been prudent in this case. So I'm very curious as to how the context, how that's going to build up in the book. Is this an entirely unilateral decision that Anduin makes about proposing peace and this whole idea? Like, who is it that's against this idea when it's brought up? And I don't think we've read enough to really understand exactly what's going on, at least not yet. Let me get caught up with some of the chat here. Mike says, yeah, of course he's going to be idealistic, absolutely. Did you not see him talk to his father the last few expansions? I would have figured that from Anduin's experience that he would have at least learned a couple of lessons, and he would learn that he needs to have that he needs to be a lot more careful and understanding about the Horde's needs. That's another thing that this letter doesn't really do. This addresses Anduin's needs and wants and ambitions, and without giving a lick of what Sylvanas or the Horde is looking for. And I think it's maybe it hasn't been stated very clearly enough, but the Horde all the Horde really wants to do is exist, and for the most part be left alone. At least that's what the intention was when Thrall first established the Horde. And Garrosh kind of fucked it up with the whole land expansion thing, but then there was also the threat of the end of the world with the Cataclysm and Deathwing and etc., etc. So there were some land exchanges in that case. And of course, under the Garrosh regime, things got progressively worse to the point where Orgrimmar got kind of sacked, and then there was that. From there, the politics between the Horde and Alliance didn't really change very much. During Warlords, not too much happened. During Legion, there were the events in Broken Shore that caused both the War Chief and the High King to get killed. Spoiler alert. But past that, the Azeroth was too embroiled in the fight versus the Legion to really pick up on what's been going on between their two governments. So here we are. Now that it's finally over, they're just kind of trying to bum rush through and get caught up with all the politicking. Because if you recall from the chapter sample, this isn't too much of a spoiler, but Anduin indicates that he got reports that what happened during the Broken Shore might not have been true. Where Gen was like, "Oh, the Horde are retreating. They're a bunch of assholes. Fuck them." And Anduin, it was only recently getting unverified reports, it seems, that may not have been the case. So, man, their intelligence sucks. They really suck at this whole... come on, SI7, you guys... can't you guys, like, find memos or find correspondence or anything like that? And after all, like, the Horde War Chief did die. So there should have been some sort of consideration of that. It's like, oh, okay, well, I guess people did die and all that stuff too. Going back to the letter really quick, there's one line he says, Something about, oh, it's the last line. You and I have both lost family, War Chief. Let us not force that upon others who, like us, did not choose it. So, I don't think Anduin quite understands what loss is. I don't know if that will like infuriate Sylvanas or whatnot, because Anduin lost his father. It was very sad. It was very sad and tragic. He wasn't there for it, but then he got news of it. Your father died heroically, yada yada yada. That's terrible. Sylvanas was killed, was raised as a banshee, and watched from her own eyes as her body took assistance in slaughtering 90% of her people. She watched it happen. She watched most of that happen. That's tragic. It's not a contest of who lost more, but this just tells me that Anduin doesn't quite understand what's going on with Sylvanas' head. I think he should have been briefed. Hey, you know what? Tell me about Sylvanas. Tell me what her story is. And if that intelligence is in fact known, because I don't know if we know, or I as a player and a reader don't know if the Alliance knows what all of us know about Sylvanas' past. If that's the case, okay, cool. If it's not, okay, cool. But at least this reads like this reads as if he doesn't understand who he's dealing with. Anduin's dealing with a very smart asshole, not a brutish asshole like Garrosh. I'd like to think that Sylvanas is very smart and motivated and ruthless and cunning, etc., etc., etc. So I have very little doubt in my mind that Sylvanas says yes to this sort of meeting because she's using it for something else. Because she gets nothing. Because otherwise, she gets nothing out of this. There's nothing to be had of this aside from the the possible de-escalation of war. But at the same time, she knows that her forces are in pretty dire straits. The armies are spent. She had intended to invade Stormwind for the sake of just getting more freaking bodies, while the Alliance was supposedly weak, and they decide to go this route instead, mostly because of the Azerites, I believe. Let me get caught up with chat because I'm going to be wrapping up pretty soon and going on to Twitch for just some hanging out. Simon says, I get it. I hope I get it. Me myself says that, to me, it's a clear example of Anduin's youth and naivety. It's kind of endearing, but worrisome for some people who are supposed to be leading a crap load of people. I think so too. It feels like Anduin is leading the people. He's talking to the people, but he's not listening to the people. He listens to the leadership, which is what a decent king should do, but he's not listening to the people, which is what a great king would do, I'd like to think. Competent leader does not equal a competent politician. I very much agree, Menard. The Horde wants to exist, perhaps not crazy. Sylvanas, she wants far more. I'm still wondering about that. I mean, she obviously doesn't want to die. She obviously wants to protect her people. But as for what her end game is, that I'm not sure about. She has, at least from what I see and read, she doesn't have aspirations to conquer the world. She wants to kill a lot of people, sure. But as for conquering the world, it's a bit different. It's weird because it's weird for me to talk this sort of perspective. That's, oh yeah, she just wants to kill everyone. That's not evil. And I'm not even going to talk about good, evil, blah blah blah, because those are sides, and the only sides that matter is that side and the other side. And the only concern between the two of them is that they want to kill each other for whatever the heck reason. So the idea of being good, evil, whatever, it doesn't matter because one side wants to kill us. So it's a very simple kill or be killed situation that the Horde and Alliance, that Blizzard is putting into the Horde and Alliance DNA. It runs through their bones, unfortunately. Even if it results in some uncharacteristic actions or various some very obvious lapses in logic, such as having ambassadors like actually talk to each other and that sort of thing. Old Garrosh turned 3 out of 5 Horde leaders against himself before Cat even started. Yeah, let's see. Buttwise, what's up, dude? Haven't seen you on chat yet. I've seen you in guild, I believe, but that's about it. As much as I want to say, okay, I'll see you later, Menard. Okay, people saying hi, cool. Old gods to manipulate or no? That I would be pissed off about too if the old gods are just behind this and manipulating things behind the scenes. I'm trying to write an essay about me just talking smack about the idea of the old gods and the light and them manipulating things from the background, because to me that's cheap story. It cheapens the story. It damages character development when later you find out in a twist that they've been manipulated this entire time, or they've been possessed, or they've been getting whispers or dreams or other such things that are being caused by this boogeyman or woman in the background. I find that boring. I find that boring when it's overused, and I feel that it is incredibly overused. She shouldn't be in charge. So am I hoping that she does something that you feel that you can feel justified in calling her evil? I'll answer for him, Simon. I have a feeling that Sylvanas is. I have a feeling that regardless of how ruthless and cruel that she's being, it creates a kind of character in her that's unique compared to everyone else, compared to all the other faction leaders, because she's willing to do what it takes. She's like the Illidan of, she might turn out to be the Illidan of Biffa, who's willing to do things that everyone else would be like, this is a stupid idea. And she's like, nope, this is the only idea, charge. And she'll like, do the thing that no one else wants to, somehow win and either die doing it or come out the hero. She might just come out being the one that was right, who was willing to commit actions that no one else would. And if you want to call it evil, that's something that she's willing to embrace. She doesn't give a shit what we think about her. So she sees past that, and that's what makes a leader of people. I believe that's what makes a leader. That's what makes a leader of people. If you're too compassionate, if you're listening to everybody, then you're not going to get anywhere. And ironically, that's what Blizzard as a company does a lot. So they tend to listen. They tend to want to cater to everyone. So everyone's a little bit happy, but at the same time they're pissed off about something else, and so nothing gets done, and other such things. That's just kind of how it goes. And so you've been busy with the new baby. Okay, right on. Yeah, but I hope to see you in the new expansion and all that. Some of y'all love talking smack. Chris, what's up and good morning? I'll say a couple good mornings here because I'm going to be going over to Twitch in just a few minutes. It makes a little. Ayase Masaki says it makes a little sense though. There are 6 races on the Horde side who are more focused about honor and their old ways. So why should we not consider her as a new Garrosh when she kills everyone? It's hard. I think it's hard because she's still the war chief. Which, to be honest, I'm still like baffled. I'm like, she shouldn't have taken the job. She should have been like, she should have waited until Vol'jin died, and she would have been like, no, I'm not gonna do this. This is stupid. Fuck that. Bane, you're up, buddy. You're gonna do great. You're gonna do great. Hey, Lothamar, you still got one eye, right? So it's your turn. I got other stuff I want to do. Okay. If Sylvanas was smart, that she should have done that. But I think that I do firmly think that because of the volatility of the Horde at that moment, if she had refused the role, it would have weakened the organization as a whole greatly. So she had to take it up. Otherwise, she and her people would be extremely vulnerable. All right, let me try to wrap that up. Bane is a spineless eternal apologist. I think he just likes taking credit for stuff he doesn't do, man. Archmage Isen says, "With Kali being resurrected in the light, do you think we will see the return of the Lich King Bolvar?" Well, he's still around, so it's just a matter of if he's going to be active or not. Let's see gender primer for us. Bad writing can neuter anyone. I agree. The question still remains whether Vol'jin was manipulated into appointing her. I want to think no. I would like to think no, because again, if it turns out, oh, it's the old gods doing, it cheapens everything. It cheapens all of the development that's been going on. I don't think that's a good idea. If it turns out that it was the old gods, I would be pretty disappointed in Blizzard's writing if they cop out and be like, oh, let's just make it an old god thing. I think that in the end, Blizzard does a lot of improvisation with their writing. Some of it based on just at a whim. Hey, you know what? Let's try this idea. Cool, sounds good. Writers do some stuff, make it work. And the writer's like, sure, okay, whatever you want, guys. Sylvanas' warchief gives her a large army to accomplish her goals, though. I'm still curious about what her end goals are. Does she want to just exist? Does she want to take over the world? Does she want to become the next Lich King? I'm not sure. I'd say I wouldn't call it return, more like coming to the spot. Yeah, it would be more like a coming into a spotlight. All right, so I'm gonna wrap things up here. But I'd be more than happy to talk more smack about character development, the writing, the lore, etc. Over on twitch.tv/SoulSoBreezy. So I appreciate you coming. There's a lot of conversations going on, so I hate to leave these conversations as they are. But like I said, if you want to follow me over to Twitch, cool. If not, if you don't give a shit, well, that's a bummer. But I'm going to try to squeeze in a Tales from the Crossroads episode. They're actually harder to produce than you think. But I'm going to try and do a couple of readings of some cool stories from you, the viewers and the fans. But otherwise, see you in a few minutes or later or something like that. Until then, though, stay safe, stay happy, and as always, stay breezy. Whew. See, I told you I was going to talk a lot.